I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even cry. All I did was right-click and open a folder. And that folder ended my marriage. No, it wasn't some mistake. I wasn't snooping through my wife's computer trying to catch her in a lie. I was just transferring vacation photos. That's it. She had asked me to send a few from our trip to Bar Harbor to her mom, and since I'm the techie one, which really just means I can open Dropbox without help, I sat down at her laptop and did what she asked. But she didn't log out of her profile. And on her desktop, beside a bunch of random icons and open tabs about skincare and patio furniture, there was a single folder. Private. That's all it said. Just that word. And here's the thing. I didn't even want to open it. I really didn't. But the moment I hovered my mouse over it, something just shifted. My gut twisted. You ever have that feeling where your body knows before your brain does? I clicked it. Inside. Screenshots. A lot of them. All taken from her phone. I shouldn't have looked further, but I did. One message preview hit like a brick. He doesn't suspect a thing. And honestly, even if he did, he'd still fold. He always does. I didn't recognize the number, but I didn't need to. The contact name was saved as Ty. I sat there, heart racing, mouth dry. There were other files too. One was a photo of our bedroom. Not recent. Taken at night. She was in it. So was he. And that was the moment I knew my wife wanted space because she was already sharing hers. But instead of confronting her right then and there, I took a screenshot of everything, saved it on a flash drive, closed the folder, cleaned up the history, didn't even leave the window open. Then I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and made dinner like nothing happened. I didn't eat. That night, she came home late, said traffic was bad, said she was exhausted, said she needed to go to bed early and have some mental space. And I said, cool, let me help you pack it. She blinked, confused. For your space? I said. I figure we start tonight. She didn't laugh. She didn't ask questions. She just stood there, like the floor had dropped beneath her feet. There was no shouting. No drama. I wasn't even angry. I was hollow. I'd already broken inside 3 hours earlier. And the best part? She thought I was bluffing. But the next morning, my car was gone. My key was on the counter. And a note next to her smoothie bottle said, I moved out. You've got all the space you need now. P.S. You left your private folder open. That was 6:42 a.m. By 9:12 a.m., she called. By 11 o'clock, she was leaving voicemails I didn't even bother to play. By 1:27 p.m., she showed up at my brother's work asking if he'd seen me. And by 5:44 p.m., she sent a message that simply said, I made a mistake. Please come home. Too late. I wasn't home anymore. I was done being the fool who always folded. And for once, I was the one who left the mess behind. I always thought that if I ever left Quinn, she wouldn't care. That she'd just move on like flipping a switch, maybe even feel relieved. The kind of woman who'd throw herself a solo brunch the next day and post filtered photos captioned with something like, growth season leaf fluttering in wind sparkles. But that's not what happened. Not even close. When I left, I didn't slam the door or make some grand dramatic exit. No big speech, no bags hurled into the car. I just quietly erased myself. I left the key on the counter, didn't say goodbye, and drove off before she could even realize what I was doing. That part was deliberate. I didn't want her to have the satisfaction of a fight. I didn't want her to twist the narrative into Lowell got emotional and overreacted, like she always does when I finally stand up for myself. The motel I checked into was disgusting in every sense. Stains on the ceiling, flickering lamp, a bedspread that smelled like it hadn't been washed since 2006. But in that stale little room, I felt something I hadn't in years, distance. And not the kind she asked for. This was mine. My distance. My air. My breathing room. I powered up my laptop, plugged in the flash drive, and went through everything again. Slowly this time. Methodically. There were dozens of text exchanges between her and Ty. Some were suggestive. Some were just cruel. In one, she literally joked that I'd probably thank her if I found out because it would give me a chance to finally feel like a victim again. That one made my jaw clench. She knew. She knew I clung to her like a sad little puppy, and she weaponized it. Made it a punchline. The worst part? They weren't even trying to hide it. These weren't coded messages or secret accounts. It was all under her name, her number, her phone. She just never imagined I'd look. I was the harmless husband, the soft guy, the one who always folded in arguments, always said sorry first, always asked if she was okay even when I was bleeding inside. But that night, alone in a creaky motel bed, I started to think about the past not through the lens of what I'd lost, but what I'd tolerated. And I hated myself for it, for how much I'd begged for scraps, for how low my self-worth had dipped that I thought I deserved less than loyalty. The next morning, the sun had barely come up when my phone buzzed. Quinn, 6:08 a.m. Where are you? I didn't respond. 7:14 a.m. Lowell. Are you serious? This isn't funny. Still nothing. By 8:01 a.m. She was calling nonstop. My phone log looked like a panic attack in real time. 8 missed calls in 1 hour. Then it came, the voicemail. I didn't want to listen. I really didn't. But some pitiful part of me still wanted to hear her voice, even if it was lying. She sounded shaky. Not crying yet, but unsteady. Look, I know you're upset. I didn't mean for you to find out like that. Can we please talk? I didn't expect you to just vanish. Didn't expect me to vanish? She literally told me she wanted space. But it was never about space. It was about keeping me close enough for comfort and far enough not to interfere. At 10:22 a.m., I got a message from my neighbor, Darren, the only one I trusted enough to say anything to. He texted me a photo. My driveway. Quinn sitting on the front step, phone in her lap, still in her pajamas. Eyes red. Hair messy. Not her Instagram version. The real her. She's been out there a while, Darren wrote. Did something happen? I just texted back. She wanted space. I gave it to her. By noon, my sister Claire called. Apparently, Quinn had reached out to her. Said I'd left without warning. That she was worried for my mental state. Yeah, now she was playing the concerned wife card, because her lies were catching up faster than she expected. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I had a plan. Not for revenge. Not even for closure. Something better. Something she wouldn't see coming. And it would start that evening, when she received an envelope that would make her question everything she thought she controlled. Because if she wanted space, she was about to get a map with no way back to me. I didn't deliver the envelope myself. That would have been too easy. Too dramatic. Quinn was always better in drama than I was. Always knew how to twist a scene to her advantage. She could cry at the right time, soften her voice, say something poetic sounding that made people forgive her before they even realized what she'd done. I knew if I handed it to her face to face, she'd spin it. Make it about my tone. Make it about how hurtful I was being. So I took all of that out of the equation. I mailed it. Certified. Signature required. I wanted her to physically sign for the moment her double life officially collapsed. Inside the envelope was a flash drive and a note. Simple. No cursing, no all-caps rage, no sad poetry. Just, you said you wanted honesty and space. This is both. I'm done. Lowell. The flash drive had everything. Screenshots, voice memos, calendar entries, the photo, the messages, even a screen recording of her own voice, mocking me to her so-called tie. I didn't splice anything together. I didn't edit it for drama. I just let it speak for itself. And then I turned off my phone. Not permanently. Just long enough to take a walk through downtown without being a man chained to a buzzing pocket. I bought a coffee, walked by the bookstore I used to take her to. The same one she stopped going to because our reading taste drifted. Funny how reading habits apparently die the same week an affair begins. By the time I turned my phone back on hours later, I had 15 voicemails and a string of messages that painted a descent. First, denial. What is this? Where did you get this stuff? Then outrage. You had no right to go through my things. Then bargaining. Please, Lowell. Please don't do this. I can explain everything. And then silence. That's the part that stung more than it should have. For all the anger I'd bottled up, all the lines she crossed, all the things she called me behind my back, I still hoped, deep down, that there would be something raw and real in her. Some part of her that would finally say, you didn't deserve this. I did this to you. But no, Quinn didn't apologize. She pivoted. The next day, she posted a photo on Instagram of herself at a cafe, captioned, "Strong women don't beg. They rebuild." That's how I knew she wasn't just protecting her ego. She was building a narrative. For her friends. For her family. Maybe even for Ty. She needed to look like the victim. And I just handed her the perfect excuse to play it. But here's what she didn't know. I wasn't just walking away. I was resetting everything. In the weeks leading up to this moment, I'd quietly met with a lawyer. I'd frozen the joint accounts. I'd removed myself from every shared subscription, car insurance, gym membership, and yes, even the Spotify family plan she used more than me. You know what else? I'd already signed the lease on a new place. A little apartment on the other side of the city. Small, old hardwood floors, paint chipping in the corners, but it was mine. No echo of her footsteps. No leftover perfume in the closet. No shared bed that haunted me with memories of nights she claimed to be too tired while whispering good night to someone else on her phone. I moved in that night. No ceremony. Just a duffel bag, a pizza box, and my laptop. I sat on the floor and opened an email from a burner account I'd made. I had only one purpose for it, to send Ty a message. Not a threat, just an invitation. An invitation for him to see what she had said about him when he wasn't around. And it turns out, he took the bait. The thing about betrayal is, it doesn't stay clean. People think you can cheat in silence, lie behind a smile, whisper behind closed doors, but the truth doesn't die quietly. It spreads. It echoes. And sometimes, it doubles back on the ones who thought they were in control. Ty replied less than 3 hours after I sent him the email. No threats. No denial. No bro energy. Just 5 words that hit harder than anything Quinn had ever said. We should talk. In person. I stared at the screen like it might change. I didn't even know what I expected. Maybe some toxic flex, some proud smirk in text form like, she chose me, man. Deal with it. But no, this guy wasn't gloating. He sounded shaken. I didn't respond right away. I just watched his message sit there while the cursor blinked like it was challenging me. I mean, I had no interest in bonding with the guy who'd been in my house, in my bed, with my wife. But some sick curiosity crawled under my skin and whispered, wouldn't you want to know what she told him? So I replied. We agreed to meet in a neutral spot, a gas station parking lot, because I didn't trust him enough for anything closer, and I wasn't about to invite him to my new apartment. I got there first, parked, waited, hands sweaty on the steering wheel. He pulled in 5 minutes later, drove a dented gray truck. Looked older than I expected. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. Balding slightly, thick beard, and a look on his face that said this wasn't his first time being in a mess like this. He walked up to my window, slow, cautious, like I might throw a punch. I didn't. I rolled the window down and just looked at him. You Lowell? He asked. I nodded. He glanced around, as if checking for hidden cameras, then sighed and leaned against the passenger door. I didn't know, man, he said. I swear to God. She told me you two were separated. That you were, like, living in different rooms. That it was basically over. I didn't say anything. She told me you didn't touch each other for a year. Said you were more like her depressed roommate than a husband. There it was, the dagger dressed in pity. I looked at him and asked, so that justified everything to you? He didn't answer right away. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through something. Then he held it up and showed me a message from Quinn. He won't leave. He's pathetic. I feel trapped. My chest tightened. I remembered the exact day that message was sent, the day I surprised her with lunch at work. I thought she was stressed, so I brought her favorite takeout. She barely looked at me. Now I knew why. She'd been texting him during that lunch. She lied to both of us. I muttered. Ty nodded. She told me she was afraid of you, that you'd get suicidal if she left. I turned to look at him. Really look. Do I look suicidal now? He shook his head, embarrassed. No. You look like a guy who got burned. We sat in silence for a few seconds. Two strangers connected by the same woman, but on opposite ends of a lie. Then he said something I didn't see coming. She did the same thing to her ex. The one before you. Said he was abusive. Said he stalked her after they broke up. Now I'm wondering if any of that was true. The pattern clicked like a lock opening in my brain. The story she'd told me when we started dating. About her dangerous ex. The restraining order. The dramatic escape. Now it all smelled like the same cheap lemons I'd come to hate. Artificial, overused, covering something rotten underneath. Ty looked down at the ground. I ended it. 2 days ago. Haven't seen her since. She's been blowing up my phone ever since your email. Good. Let her scramble. Let her feel even a fraction of what I had to sit in. I drove away from that parking lot with one thought swirling in my head. She wasn't just unfaithful. She was a full-blown manipulator. A shapeshifter. Someone who built stories so carefully, you could live in them for years without realizing they were fiction. But the fallout wasn't over. Not even close. Because someone else had been watching all this unfold. Someone who knew more than I did. Someone I hadn't spoken to since before the wedding. And she had receipts of her own. I wasn't expecting the email. It came late, nearly 1:40 a.m. I was lying in bed in the dark, the kind of restless that makes your thoughts feel louder than the cars outside your window. I just started to drift off when my phone buzzed. Not a call. Not Quinn. Not Ty. It was from someone named Maren C. Subject line, "This is long overdue." I opened it because I had nothing left to lose. The message was short, but the attachment wasn't. "Lowell, you don't know me, but I know Quinn very well. We used to be best friends. She's going to spin this like she always does. Before she gets the chance. I thought you deserved to see the version of her the rest of us tried to warn you about. I've attached screenshots. I'll let them speak for themselves. I'm sorry. Maren." I stared at the screen, unsure if I was being baited into more heartbreak or something worse. But curiosity won. I opened the folder. And I swear, it felt like someone reached into my chest and wrung my heart like a wet rag. There were dozens of messages, old ones, dating back to before Quinn and I got married. Chats between her and Maren. Between her and other friends. Group texts where she mocked our engagement. Private messages where she described me not as a partner she loved, but as a stepping stone, a safe option. And this one really stuck. A placeholder until real life begins. She had actually typed that. About me. The man who gave up a career, moved to stay near her parents. Who canceled a backpacking trip to be there when she had surgery. Who once cried in front of her when I thought I might lose her to something far worse than infidelity. An illness she faked for attention, according to one thread Maren shared. Yeah, that's when the ground really cracked open beneath me. Turns out Quinn once staged a health scare to see if I'd finally step up. That phrase came from her own message to Maren. "He's too comfortable. I want to know if he'd actually care if something happened. This is a test." I remembered that week vividly. I barely slept. I skipped work. I cried in the car because I was terrified of losing her. I prayed for her. I bought flowers. Wrote a letter. Sat by her side while she rested. All of it, a setup. I'd passed a test I didn't even know I was taking. And she used my love as a microscope just to see if I'd squirm. Maren's final message wasn't bitter. It wasn't even angry. It was tired. Just tired. I cut Quinn off 2 years ago. She turned our whole friend group against each other. She lied so easily and so often, I started questioning my own memories. You're not the first person she's shattered, but maybe you can be the last. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. I didn't respond to her that night. I couldn't. There was too much noise in my head. Too many years unraveling all at once. Quinn hadn't just betrayed me sexually. She'd betrayed the story I thought we were living. She'd made me believe in something she was mocking behind my back. While I saw a partnership, she saw a cage. While I thought I was building a future with her, she was already writing me out of the script. I got up and walked barefoot into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, sat at the counter, and just stared at the wall for 20 full minutes. There's no manual for grief like this. Grief where the person is still alive. Still texting. Still calling. Still pretending this can be patched with therapy or silence or a forced date night. But that night, I finally realized something. I wasn't mourning the loss of Quinn. I was mourning the illusion of her. The fantasy I carried like a photo in my wallet. The woman who never really existed, except in the version I painted for myself. And for the first time, I didn't want her back. Not even a little. But that didn't mean she was done. Because 3 days later, she showed up at my new place. And she didn't come alone. There's something surreal about seeing your wife on the other side of a door you never planned to open for her again. Something off balance and dreamlike. She looked smaller somehow. Her makeup wasn't done, and her hair was tied up in the way she always said she only did when no one important was around. Yet here she was, standing stiff on the welcome mat of a one-bedroom apartment I didn't even list my name on, because I hadn't wanted her to find it. But it wasn't just her. Standing just behind her, arms crossed, and wearing a look like he was sizing me up for a fight, was her older brother, Grant. I hadn't seen him in over a year. We were never close. He'd always treated me like I was made of soft plastic, something to tolerate, never respect. He was one of those alpha guys who wore cargo pants and talked in military metaphors, even though he worked in real estate. And now he was here, looming behind Quinn like a bodyguard. I didn't open the door all the way. I kept the chain latched, even though it made me feel ridiculous. Didn't think you knew where I lived, I said flatly. Her eyes were red-rimmed. I couldn't tell if she'd been crying or just hadn't slept, but she looked worse than I'd ever seen her, and I'd seen her throw up in an Uber after a company Christmas party, so that was saying something. Lowell, she said quietly. Please, I'm not here to fight. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because the absurdity of it all cracked something loose inside me. Then why'd you bring backup? She turned to glare at Grant, who gave me this fake shrug like, hey, I'm just here to keep things civilized. I hated him instantly all over again. Because you've been ignoring me, she said, her voice shaking a little. You're dodging every call. You won't let me explain. I don't need your explanation, I replied. I have yours, remember? I'm typing on a laptop. You wrote the script yourself. Just forgot to delete the folder. She closed her eyes like she was trying to breathe through something painful. I didn't come to make excuses. I came to talk. To fix this. To fix what, Quinn? I asked, my voice rising. The part where you called me pathetic? The part where you staged being sick to see if I cared? Or maybe the part where you told Ty I was just a placeholder? Which exact part do you want to fix? That hit. Her face crumpled slightly. She didn't cry. Not yet. But I could see it building. Grant finally stepped in. All right, enough, he said. You've made your point. But if you think ghosting her like a coward is the adult way to handle this. I stepped back and slammed the door. The chain caught, just as I wanted it to. I stood there, breathing heavily behind the wood, while I heard Quinn say something muffled, followed by Grant knocking harder. This isn't over, Lowell, he shouted. You can't just walk out like she's nothing. The irony nearly made me burst. She already made me nothing. That's what no one seemed to get. I didn't destroy the marriage. I just finally refused to lie still while it collapsed on top of me. After a few seconds of silence, I peeked through the peephole. They were still there, arguing. Quinn grabbed Grant's arm and tried to pull him back toward the stairs, but he was gesturing wildly, clearly trying to convince her to keep pushing. She must have said something sharp because suddenly, his face changed. He stopped arguing. Then he turned, gave my door one last death stare, and followed her down the steps. I didn't move for a long time after they left. Just leaned against the door and felt this heavy, awful quiet settle over the room. You'd think seeing her like that, begging, unraveling, would have felt good. But it didn't. Because here's the thing no one tells you about getting the upper hand. It doesn't undo the betrayal. It doesn't clean the filth out of your memories or make your bed feel full again. It just makes the silence echo harder. Later that night, I got a text. It was just one sentence. If you don't want to talk to me, maybe you'll talk to your boss. At first, I didn't understand. Then it hit me. She wasn't trying to fix things. She was threatening me. Quinn had gone from regret to retaliation. And my job, the one thing I thought she couldn't touch, was suddenly on the chopping block. I didn't sleep that night. After Quinn and her brother left, after the slamming door and the final footsteps faded down the stairwell, I just sat there, on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone, rereading her text. If you don't want to talk to me, maybe you'll talk to your boss. I should have been more prepared for this. I knew how Quinn worked. Manipulation was her native language. I'd seen her do it to friends, to her own sister, to people she barely knew. If someone threatened her ego, she rewrote the narrative and made herself the victim. Always. And now that she had nothing left to guilt me with, she was trying something else entirely, control by destruction. I got the email from HR the next morning. A formal notice, titled, Private Concern Raised, Internal Review Pending. My heart nearly stopped reading that subject line. I clicked it like it was going to explode. Inside, it said a report had been submitted against me. Anonymous. Alleging emotional instability and erratic behavior at home that could pose a risk to workplace dynamics. I'm not kidding. That's what it said. Risk to workplace dynamics. Quinn had always been good with language. I recognized her phrasing in the first paragraph. The concern wasn't about anything I'd actually done at work. No accusations. No complaints. Just a character smear. A carefully crafted picture of a man struggling to maintain boundaries after a personal breakdown. She didn't come from my heart this time. She came from my reputation. That hit me harder than anything. Because unlike our marriage, my job was something I'd built with real effort. I kept my head down. I was reliable. I didn't gossip or cause waves. I had spent years trying to prove that I was worth more than people assumed. That just because I wasn't loud or bold or commanding didn't mean I wasn't valuable. And now, She was trying to take that away from me, too. I requested a meeting with my manager immediately. I didn't even hesitate. I walked straight into his office and told him everything. I told him about the separation. I told him Quinn had spiraled. I didn't go into the dirty details. I didn't need to. I told him I had evidence, if necessary, that she was targeting me personally because I refused to reconcile. That this wasn't about the workplace. It was about power. To my surprise, he didn't push back. In fact, he looked exhausted. Then he said something that chilled me more than I expected. You're not the first person she's used professional threats against. I blinked. What? He hesitated, then sighed. She used to work with one of our vendors 2 years ago, back when we did that marketing deal with Finch Agency. I nodded. She made a scene there. Lied about her coworker. Tried to tank his job because he broke off whatever was going on between them. We didn't hire her agency again after that. Quietly blacklisted them. And just like that, the room tilted. It all made sense. The rumors Quinn once told me about how her career wasn't appreciated, about how she was too much woman for the corporate world. She'd painted herself as a misunderstood firebrand. But now I saw the truth. She was a saboteur. The next day, HR closed the review. My record stayed clean, but the tension didn't vanish. The damage wasn't official, but it was there. In glances, in whispered conversations I couldn't hear, in how the air changed when I walked into the office. She didn't need to succeed in ruining me. She just needed to make me look unstable enough to question. And it worked, just enough to hurt. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by silence. I looked at the evidence again. I opened the flash drive with everything, the texts, the screenshots, the messages she never expected me to find. And I realized something. Quinn didn't just want to hurt me. She wanted to own the ending of our story. She wanted to be the one who got to say what happened, how it happened, and why. And if I stayed quiet, if I just moved on, she'd get exactly that. She'd rewrite it all. So I made one final decision. Not out of revenge. Out of survival. I was going to show the truth. But not with yelling. Not with petty games. With calm, calculated clarity. And it would begin where she never expected it. Her parents' anniversary dinner. Because she forgot one small detail in all her scheming. I still had an invitation. And they still thought I was the perfect son-in-law. I didn't go there to start a scene. That's the part people don't understand when they hear what happened. They think I showed up to her parents' anniversary dinner to blow things up, to drop a bomb in the middle of their picture-perfect celebration. But I didn't. I went for one reason, to stop being erased. Because Quinn had already tried to rewrite everything, to make herself the victim, to spin me into a paranoid, unstable mess. And if I didn't say anything, if I kept letting her own the story, then the version that lived in everyone else's mind would be hers. Not the truth. Hers. I dressed well. Shaved. Wore the watch her father gave me 2 Christmases ago. Not to impress her, but because I wanted to walk in with dignity. Not anger. Not desperation. Just clarity. When I arrived, the room was already full. Her extended family. Friends. Aunts, uncles, her cousins from Denver. Everyone was laughing, sipping wine, wearing the smiles that only show up during speeches and cake cutting. Then Quinn saw me. Her face froze like glass about to shatter. She hadn't expected me to actually come. I could tell. She hadn't planned for this version of the story. Her mother hugged me like nothing had ever happened. Lowell, I didn't think you'd make it. Quinn looked like she wanted to scream. I kept it brief. I smiled, complimented the setup, gave her father a firm handshake. The usual. I didn't avoid Quinn, but I didn't approach her either. I let the tension build, not with shouting, but with stillness. Then the speeches started. Quinn's mom thanked everyone for coming. Her dad made some cheesy jokes. Then, to my absolute surprise, her father handed me the mic. Lowell, he said, smiling. You've always been family. Say something. And right there, in a room full of the people who still believed her mask, I had my moment. I stood up, took the mic. I looked at her, and I said, I want to thank you all for letting me be part of this family. Even though things have shifted between me and Quinn, I still respect every one of you. You've always welcomed me, and that's something I'll carry forever. A quiet tension filled the room. Then I continued, but I do want to clear the air, because silence can be a dangerous thing. It gives room for lies to grow. Quinn's jaw tensed. She stepped forward. Lowell, don't. I turned calmly toward her. No, you had your voice. Now I'm using mine. I didn't go into detail. I didn't air every screenshot or expose every message. I didn't even say Ty's name. Instead, I told the truth in the way it mattered most. Simply, I was faithful. I was loyal. I was present. And I was lied to, betrayed, rewritten. Then I looked around the room. And I'm not here for pity. I'm not here for revenge. I just wanted you all to know the silence is over. I handed the mic back. And then, without another word, I walked out. I didn't look back. Not even when Quinn called my name across the room. Not even when her father shouted something confused behind me. I walked out into the cool evening air and felt, for the first time in years, free. That was 9 months ago. Since then, things have been better. Not perfect, but better. I switched jobs, not because I had to, but because I wanted a clean slate. I started therapy, even joined a hiking group, which sounds ridiculous because I hate bugs and cardio, but it turns out walking through trees with strangers can be more healing than a dozen "How are you feeling?" texts. I heard Quinn tried dating someone new a few weeks after the dinner. Didn't last long. Word got around that things ended weird. Shocking, I know. Marin and I still message now and then. She's good. Better. She apologized again, even though she had nothing to apologize for. It helped, though. Closure can come from unexpected places. And as for me, I met someone. I wasn't looking. I was literally just trying to buy coffee one morning, and she cut in front of me by accident. Turned around, apologized profusely, and offered to pay for my drink. We talked. Then we kept talking. Her name's Elise. She listens when I speak, not out of politeness, but out of interest. She doesn't make me feel like I'm too much. Or not enough. I don't have to beg for her attention. I don't have to shrink to keep her comfortable. She told me the other night that I laugh more than most men she knows. That hit me, because for so long, I forgot what laughing even felt like. I don't know where this is going, but for the first time in years, I'm not afraid of the ending. Because I finally wrote one of my own.